Yeah, hi there coaches. Okay, so we're on to deciding what tournaments to attend and what tournaments make sense. So really this comes down to a few quite critical issues, and for me it's about making sure that the tournaments are building you for success. And if, like here in Idaho, you have your big tournament at the end of the season, everything you do that leads up to that tournament, you want to make sure is creating layers of success. And it's giving you more confidence, it's giving your players more confidence, it's creating a better dynamic within the group. And when you're talking about picking out tournaments, you want to pick out ones that are going to help you to develop that. Typically what I will do is I will do a couple of tournaments away, and then I'll do at least one, maybe two tournaments in Idaho. And I try to do the ones that are out of town earlier in the season, and then the ones that are in town later in the season, so that the team can get used to playing those multiple games over the weekend in the same type of environment they're going to be playing their massive tournament at the end of the season in. So I will try and do them. So here we do State Cup at the end of May. I will try and do a tournament at the end of April and one at the end of March, so that we get the end of March, not a particularly testing tournament, the end of April a much more difficult tournament, and then the May tournament you've got the big tournament. And then in the fall we will do a travel tournament, so we'll maybe go somewhere warmer and play against teams from other states. And then in the beginning of the spring season we might do another tournament, so we'll maybe do one mid-February, early March, and that way we've got in what will be 5 tournaments in the 25-26 week season, and each one is building up to the big one. So how do you decide which tournaments to take part in? There's a couple of critical factors for that. One is budget. So depending on what money your parents are prepared to spend to go and travel to these tournaments will largely depend on where you can and can't go. There's a resource on this chapter that will help you to be able to set that budget, figure out how much each parent is prepared to spend to go to a tournament. And you know, you're going to take into consideration things like airfares, gas, hire cars, hotels, tournament fees, coaches fees, meals, so that you can put together a pretty robust budget. If you're not too far away, people will drive. You know, I've done tournaments in Arizona, I've done tournaments in California, I've done tournaments in Nevada. So they're relatively close enough that people, if they wanted to, they could just drive to them. You might have parents that are prepared to travel wherever they need to get the best quality of tournament, and if you're in that position, great, you're very lucky. You might be in a position where parents can't afford very much at all. So if you want to do a tournament and your parents can't afford very much, how do you do that? What is your method of getting that tournament to those kids? Well, the most obvious way is you do some fundraising. You figure out how to raise the amount of money you need to be able to send that team to that event. And maybe your parents can only afford 50% of whatever the budget is. Then you need to come up with the other 50%. As long as you give yourself enough time, you should be able to do that with 12 to 15 to 18 kids on your team that all have opportunities to do some fundraising. So yeah, this one is really trying to help you. Again, we're trying to put together the plan for the season. We're trying to put together the different breaks in the season, in your league season, to be able to play these tournaments, to be able to get your parents and your kids together for that weekend, where there are no distractions. There's nothing else going on outside of what you're there for, which is the tournament. Really good opportunity to bond your team, really good opportunity to find your leaders, find the people that can keep everything neat and tidy and together. Or alternatively, the opposite side of that is you can find the players and the parents that are divisive, so are there to cause potential problems, and you can figure those people out pretty quick on a tournament as well, because there's nowhere for them to hide. So yeah, go through the resources here, have a look at what we've got. There is a bonus video at the bottom where I'll share with you some of the strategies for discovering who your leaders are, and then at the very bottom there's one of my very favourite highlights from a game I watched 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, and I still remember it now because of the leader that was on the field that night and how he took complete control of that game and drove his team into a UEFA Champions League final. So enjoy the chapter. There's some really good stuff in here. It's not a very long chapter again, but you know, these pieces all fit into the overall pattern of how to create your season, how to create your back-to-back seasons. So if you've got a fall and a spring season like we do here in Idaho, how to put that together. Maybe you play all the way through. Maybe you do, you know, you're in England and you play from August through to May, in which case you're going to have a much longer opportunity to put your tournaments together, and you're going to have more time to be able to find the right types of tournaments depending on what you want to do. Alright, okay, so that's enough from me, and I'll talk to you again very soon. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.